Imagine standing in court. You raise your right hand and swear to tell the entire truth. A prosecutor asks if you saw the suspect's face. Without hesitation, you say yes. You clearly remember the color of his jacket, the exact expression on his face, even the rough sound of his voice. You feel entirely certain. But there is one terrifying problem. None of it ever happened. You aren't lying, and you aren't confused. Your brain quietly replaced a gap in reality with a convincing lie, making it impossible to distinguish between what actually happened and what it simply invented. Most of us assume memory works like a camera. You experience something, your brain records it, and later you just replay the file. In reality, it is much closer to opening a text document. Every time you remember an event, you pull up that file, change a few words, and hit save. This means every time you access a memory, you risk altering it forever without ever noticing. Your most treasured childhood memory or your happiest birthday might already be a fiction you unknowingly wrote yourself. Maintaining perfect biological records requires immense energy, so the brain evolved to prioritize survival over the burden of absolute historical accuracy. Instead of storing every single photographic detail of an encounter in the forest, your brain only saves the core takeaway. It remembers that a specific place felt dangerous. To fill the blank spaces, psychologists say your brain uses schemas, mental templates built from past experiences. If you walk into a generic room, your brain instantly fills in missing details using what usually belongs there. It happens entirely in the background. Evolution optimized the human brain for real-time survival, turning memory into a reconstruction machine that builds a useful story instead of a perfect archive. Neuroscientists call this process reconsolidation. Every time you recall an experience, that memory becomes temporarily unstable. It gets taken apart, updated with new information, and stored again. In the 1990s, psychologist Elizabeth Loftus posed a disturbing question. Could you artificially create a memory of an event that never occurred? To test this, her team presented volunteers with several true stories from their childhood, but quietly hid one completely fictional story among them. The fake story claimed the participant had gotten lost in a shopping mall as a child. Days later, many participants didn't reject the lie. Using their internal schemas, their brains constructed the fake memory vividly, describing the physical layout of the stores and the fear they supposedly felt. This flexibility shows up constantly. If someone watches a car accident and you ask them, "Did you see the broken headlight?" that single word, "the," quietly suggests a broken headlight existed. People will reconstruct their memory to include it. Memory is incredibly flexible. It is easily rewritten by subtle external suggestions, seamlessly transforming outright fiction into your personal history. Which brings us back to the courtroom. For decades, eyewitness testimony was treated as the ultimate gold standard of evidence, yet we now know it is dangerously unreliable. The advent of modern DNA testing has exposed this exact flaw, overturning numerous wrongful convictions based entirely on confident but false memory. And this happens on a massive scale. Consider what happens when millions share the exact same incorrect memory, known as the Mandela Effect. Many people vividly remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, despite him being released and becoming South Africa's president. When enough people repeat the same incorrect version of an event, our brains treat the constant social repetition as familiar, and familiarity feels exactly like truth. False memories are not isolated glitches in a single mind. They are highly contagious phenomena, capable of generating entirely shared false realities across entire populations. This forces you to ask, how much of your own daily reality is influenced by forces you never even notice? Every fear you carry, every relationship you build, and every core decision you make is built squarely on the stories your brain tells you about your past. If those foundational stories can be quietly rewritten by a subtle suggestion or a leading question, who are you without your memories? Human identity remains incredibly fragile, functioning as a constantly edited draft that changes every time we look back at our own history, leaving you to wonder how much of your life is fact and how much is just a really good story.